Well, first, it's a great pleasure for me to be back at the club and to be back in my new function of president of the medical group in Vermont. I'll tell you a little bit about Vermont. It's a small state, and probably many of you do not know much about Vermont. And all those bunch of letters, University of Vermont Health Network, University of Vermont College of Medicine, and the University of Vermont Medical Group. A few words about Burlington, a wonderful small town, my job responsibilities, why I did this, what I learned, and would I do it again? Well, you probably heard recently, you have those feeding about health in the country, and surprisingly, Vermont, Minnesota, Hawaii are regularly some of the top states in our nation in terms of health, access, treatment for the poor, pediatric care. Vermont is also the best, among the best in healthcare for low-income residents. The network I work in, has 6 hospitals, and one of the hospitals has 80% Medicaid population. So we have to be able to face that population. We don't use a lot of service. Vermont is very efficient. The hospital that I work at, the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington, touts itself as very efficient. And you can see here in that quadrant, the most efficient states, Vermont is just there as one of the most efficient states in terms of delivery of health care. The service use per beneficiary as percent of national average, Vermont is about in the less than 100% compared to some other city in the country. We have a largely non-competitive system served by nonprofit hospitals. It is a blessing and a curse. Why is it a blessing? It's because we have more control over what we're trying to do to serve the population. It is a curse because you know what happens when there's no competition. The doctors and maybe the administrator think of themselves first sometimes, and they maybe not so much patient-centric as my previous life at the Mayo Clinic. Maybe also more inward. Sometimes Vermont looks to the outside for help, but also tends to not so much look for the outside when we talk about politicians, for example. For my own doctors, sometimes it is a problem, as we have no competition, but it happens often that my orthopedic surgeons, my neurosurgeons, my cardiac surgeons, my thoracic surgeons are on call for the entire state one weekend, and even for northern New York State, because nobody wants or can take care of those patients. So that can be a challenge as well, and a big dissatisfier. We have actually, it's a state with 2 academic medical centers, if you count Dartmouth, who is a valued partner to us, and take care of some of our patients in the lower southeast corner. And the reason, actually, other than the fact that there's a very competent and high-quality medical center, there's a chain of mountain and a big highway that separate 2 patients' population. And it's very much more convenient for many patients in the southeast of Vermont to go to Dartmouth, where they get great care. We have 2 ACO, one ACO that we formed with Dartmouth in Vermont, and one ACO that we formed with a bunch of other medical centers and organizations in New York. Our catchment area actually is most of Vermont and most of the North Country in upstate New York. I just would like you to notice there's a Great Lake here, a beautiful lake. It's not a Great Lake, but it's actually the largest softwater lake in this nation after the 5 Great Lakes. Lake Champlain is about 100 miles long. It's all in length. It goes from Canada to New York State here, and at its widest 14 miles large. So it is relatively easy for Lake Champlain to actually carry people from Canada to New York, something that scares Mr. Trump very much. Vermont ranks first in the nation in terms of primary care physicians per capita and sixth in all physicians per capita as well. University of Vermont College of Medicine ranked 8th for rural medicine education, and we're even using this as a differentiator for our College of Medicine. We have actually a rural track, a longitudinal curriculum that we have started in New York State. The graduate of the UVM College of Medicine, 40% are primary care physician, 28% are specialists, 32% of Vermont overall physician. A fairly significant contribution to the economy. The network, $2.24 billion in terms of economic impact, now more than 20,000 jobs. It's a network that is actually growing rapidly, partly because of the fact that many independent physicians and smaller medical centers than what we have are suffering in terms of overhead and poor reimbursement. So we have one academic medical center, the University of Vermont Medical Center, where I'm based in Burlington, 5 community hospitals, and we're looking at being affiliate with 2 more at the present time. And the requests come almost every 2 months for a new medical center. In Vermont, less, because Vermont is very politically regulated, and we've been told that we could not practically be affiliated with more medical center because of being subject to the monopoly law. This is an old slide, but there's about 1,000 physicians in our network. Most of them are employed and under my leadership, and we have more than 1,100 licensed beds. The medical group, and you might have heard the word Fletcher Allen in the past, and we just went through a branding exercise 2 years ago, and we became the University of Vermont Medical Group, University of Vermont Medical Center. Fletcher Allen was the conglomerate of several departments and smaller medical group that became the current medical group. By decision of the network, all the employed physicians have to be in one medical group. A fairly successful financially with $400 million in net operating revenue, 75 practice locations, and we have currently significant integration issue, and that is part of the reason I got the job. There's other reasons that I'll share a little bit later. There are cultural challenges of merging or making people that are in private practice in community hospital work together, and the academic physician. There's been for some of my affiliate hospital have been competing with us in the past, and now everybody is forced to work together. And I have physicians that have very little trust toward each other or toward their previous rival, for example. Recruitment is an issue. Recruitment is difficult in remote part of the country, and that is partly why people in remote area get very poor care or very non-standard care. There are heavy regulatory and political environment, and you would laugh maybe if I say slightly less in New York State, but Vermont is heavily regulated. We need a certificate of need for anything more than $3 million. So we're building a new bed tower, a replacement bed tower for our main campus, and it took 1.5 years to get approval to build that big bed tower. We are going to have the EPIC. We have EPIC at the medical center, but we're installing it in the entire network, and it's a major expense, a major issue for the physician, as you probably know. And it's also and even if we're paying for it with our own money, that's a non-profit hospital, we have to ask for permission in a long process, because Vermont did not have to have a CON process, but before everybody had a CON process for a while. Many states dropped it, but Vermont decided not to drop it because they really regulate healthcare expenses by preventing the health industry of having a net patient revenue growth of more than 3.5%. So we have to figure out every time we go past every year, 3.5%, we have to appear in front of a board and explain why our hospital was full all year round. So that's a challenge. working across two states is also a challenge. We have a gradient of unionization of various group of workers from Vermont to New York that is very interesting and prevent logistic challenges. That, in a nutshell, that's my medical group, University of Vermont faculty practice. So when I arrived, I was the president of one group in Burlington, 650 physicians. And in 3 years, those entity affiliated with us and the physician joined us. So there's about 800 and some physicians, advanced practice provider, and for a total of 1,100 physicians and advanced practice provider. A large faculty practice division, and then the other 5 medical centers, 3 in New York, 2 other in Vermont, and there's 2 more that will join. Burlington is a magnificent small town on the lake. It has about 40,000 people, but when school time starts, there's 4 colleges, it becomes a very dynamic, a little rowdy, and had the reputation of a party school. 100,000 people, lots of restaurants, bars, that can be an issue, and very dynamic, innovative. It's the area is the home of Ben & Jerry ice cream, who are makers of ice cream, but also political activists. You would not believe the stuff that they get out on Twitter, by the way, and other things. But really, Burlington is a very innovative city. You see in the back the Green Mountains, and for people who don't know, so University of Vermont moniker is UVM, and that's the Latin for Universitas Verdes Montes. So Vermont is the French for Green Mountains, and really one of the beautiful sites in Vermont are the Green Mountains. I came there, my first retreat was at Stowe. At Stowe there is the Von Trapp Family Lodge, the Sound of Music thing, and actually that's where the retreat was. The other sets of mountains that you can appreciate, because it's a beautiful area, you have the lake. That's a picture taken from Burlington. It's on the lake, the large lake, and then you have the Adirondack, and other beautiful sets of mountains where you can ski, just like in Vermont. And my second retreat was at Lake Placid, where the Olympic complex is at the Mirror Lake, and I mean, my eyes were wide open. It's a wonderful sight. There are major health policy issues, and it does affect the doctors, my doctors, very much. The future, and you all know the future of the Accountable Care Act, what will happen. The doctors are insecure for good reasons, do not know what will happen, concerned about their compensation, concerned about will they have a job, and concerned about how this is going to all play out. The all-payer model is a deal that Vermont struck with Medicare about 6 months ago. We're going at risk for more than 80% of our Medicare population in a capitation model, and we're already at risk for about 20 million of revenue of my Medicaid population today. Will become at risk for about 50 million of revenue next year, and at the end of 2019-20, we will be at risk for 80%, which is a lot of revenue if you count, what we're trying to do. Not unlike many other areas in this nation, there's an acute opioid crisis. And you hear those tragic events on TV, and Vermont is far from excluded. And per capita, we probably are the worst state, the most vulnerable state, because of New York. Montreal, less so, but New York is 95% of the drug is coming from New York City, apparently from Brooklyn. We have a strong collaboration with the police chief. I mean, it's not rare that we have a meeting with the police chief, because Vermont is very community-oriented. Police chief is an activist, very, very pressure very much the community to do the right thing. And it's a community that's changing, and that crisis is very acute. We had 2 twins, 40 years old, that died last spring in their house of an overdose, among maybe 25 other deaths in a very small town. It causes a lot of ripple, and of course it's tragic. Mental health system challenge is big. When Katrina happened, there was a flooding, and the major psychiatric hospital was flooded and considered non-sanitary and closed. And since then, our ER are full, especially the Academic Medical Center, every day of the year, with about 10 people that are kept there to keep them safe or to prevent them from hurting other people. And then the independent physicians feel very much under duress. Their overhead is going away, meaning they can't afford it, and they really suffer through all those regulations. And they don't want to join a group like mine because they feel like they would be controlled in a state like Vermont, who pride itself as being independent. So I think I spoke about this, and just saying that there's enormous pressure to be transparent and to really do the right thing for the community. And maybe more so in Vermont, the doctors do not have good press, not because of the quality of the care that they give, so much as the access to care and the fact that they are perceived as earning big money. So it's not rare that our CEO, who is a wonderful guy, John Bromstead is a surgeon, actually a gynecologist, will be in the paper somewhere or in some trash paper with his picture and his salary and being criticized for what he's doing 24 hours a day. This is the campus, and this is our medical center. The College of Medicine is just next door. I go there every day working with the dean in some function, and really it's a very fun place to work. It's a big change for me, as I will say in a few minutes. The Larner College of Medicine was named just recently. Dr. Larner is a doctor in Los Angeles, a graduate of University of Vermont, and instead of giving $95 million to Rob McKenna, he decided to give it to us. And so we took the money and changed the name of the college, and Dr. Larner, who made his money, was a primary care physician in LA, but make his money in real estate, gave us $95 million to be innovative in teaching, and we are, actually. This is the number of student, resident, graduate student, and really, just like Minnesota, every child is above average. Here in Vermont, same thing in Vermont. Outstanding medical student. That's not my slide. That's my secretary at the college that gave me that slides to make sure I tell you that we have the best medical student, and we're very choosy, and we end up having 114 medical students that are all very bright, and that's what it is. Exactly. Medical student body, diverse, 49% women, 51% men, and you know what part of this does the best, not the man. And it's a quite diverse, the faculty is quite white, but the diversity of our medical student is fantastic. We have actually a contingent coming from California, because they all are excited about Vermont and they want to look at the lake and stuff like this, and they are all fantastic. And we send them everywhere. Of course, we're very proud that they all find a place to go. And I mentor a student right now, and I'm trying to send him to Mayo, and I hope it's going to be added to that list, because so far we have not had very much luck, not because Mayo did not want them, but they just go mostly in the East. So innovation in education, the school announced nationally that it will give up formal lecturing and go into method of teaching science that's different, in a different environment. So there won't be any further lecture at the University of Vermont Medical College of Medicine. We have good funding, over $85 million, and those are the area of excellence. But the joke is that this individual here, Dr. Kessler, is a psychologist. First time I met him, he says, "I work with your buddy, Vic Trastek at ASU." I said, "What?" And then he's gone. He's with Vic today. He left and with Vic. So wonderful guy, but because Vic is my friend, did not prevent Vic from poaching. So one of my roles is to welcome the medical student, and I here distribute Ben Jerry ice cream to the new medical student, and it's really fun because, you know, I never got to do that. By the way, at Mayo, I think I never met one medical student in my operating room, and that was how it was. You know, we met everybody coming from everywhere, but a medical student had less access to our operating room, and hopefully it's going to change, but at least I meet them with that ice cream thing. I also speak to the medical student that graduate, and it's fun. I never wore that type of thing. You should see. I mean, it's never wore that in my life, and now I'm wearing this to speak to the medical student. The white coat ceremony for medical student is when they enter the hospital for the first time, and I speak with them. Very fun to speak with them, and they kind of believe in people like you that have been in the operating room, that work hard, that sees patients, and they all wide-eyed, and they really are great. And I did some surgery, not very much, and they helped me in the operating room, and it's fascinating and fantastic to have them around. So I oversee 12 departments, 4 service lines. I'm responsible for the financial success of the practice operation, contract and compensation, vision and strategy for clinical integration. And then because Vermont is small, it's a matrix organization. One people does many things. I take care of the IRB compliance for the medical centers and recruitment, all kinds of business dinners, and also community dinners. And maybe the icing on the cake is I'm responsible for a fund, $20 million, and that's my funds. As long as I use it for the medical group, I can do whatever reasonable I want. So far I created an innovation center, and of course not alone. I mean, I have great help and a career development initiative, and it's wonderful. It's like a great package for somebody in my role. I'm a core member of the Dean's team. I oversee the DIO, the Designated Institutional Officer over at GME, and I align and coordinate the activity of the faculty practice back and forth. So there's 16 residency program in our medical center and 25 fellowship program. And of course, one of the reasons for integration is push our residents and our medical student to the network, because we do not have enough patients in town to take care of all those students and residents. So on a typical day, I meet with my direct reports, faculty who wants to meet with me or me wanting to meet with them, my boss, John Brumstead, a surgeon. And part of the reason I went there is the same as why I went to Rochester, Minnesota. I came to Rochester, Minnesota because of Pete Peralero and the team I joined, Vic Trastek, Mark Allen. Same thing there. I went there to go with John Brumstead, and one of the department chair asked me, he said, when I interviewed for the job, you're going to have to mentor me, and that was the president of the National Board of Medical Examiners. So I thought it was interesting. All the town hall, sitting on committee, task force, leadership, peer group. I gained some weight. I mean, there's too many meetings, not enough activity for sure. I'm obliged to several boards, my own board, but I also attend several other boards, the medical center board, the network board, traveling to a network hospital at least every week. And I mentioned business dinners, on the average, maybe twice a week. And then I'm on administrative call for the network. When doctors at 11 at night quarrel with each other about accepting a patient, well, I have the last word. So leaving Mayo was eye-opening. Leaving Mayo was first a wonder to work at because of my colleague. It was socialistic to an extent, regulated, and just like Shenda said a little bit, overbearing at times. Patient-centered, totally, completely, and absolutely. And I discovered another word, and I'm no longer a practicing surgeon. I removed my hat of thoracic surgery. I had to for credibility. And I started doing this when I became department chair at Mayo. But the accountability, pressure, environment are very different. So my first month, I'll tell you an anecdote. I landed there, and we started implementing a new comp plan. And radiology was going to be the department who was going to be penalized. They were working at the 90th percentile. They were paid at the 90th percentile, working at the 50th percentile. So I showed up one day at the town hall, and it was my first town hall with them, and I thought I would be welcomed like a hero. And I was, yeah, that's right. I was crucified, and I'll spare you the meeting, but that night I called Brigitte, and I said, Brigitte, maybe we should not put a down payment on that house, that thinking. But eventually what happened is that the chair of radiology made more mistake than I did, and I was supported by the organization. We implemented the comp plan, the chair left, and all is well. And I got to know a new culture, and I got to work with all kinds of different, fantastic, and challenging physicians. Why did I leave? Well, first, it was professionally timely. 8 years of department chair at Mayo was wonderful, was hard, and maybe I grew a little bit tired of the regulation, and I was wondering, and Pete had taught me, he said, when I succeeded Pete Perlero, he said, I'm not going to work for my successor. And he left shortly after he became chair. And I told myself, maybe I should think about this. And so there was also the issue that maybe many of you in private are thinking about is, what do you do with declining surgical skills, even if they are not obvious to everybody? But that was on my mind. And I became accustomed and used to and willing to learn other things. You know, there was, of course, the robotic, I did all the things that I should do, but also there was leading people going through difficult administrative issues, and I started to like it. Then there was the health wellness issues. You know, you notice my voice is a little hoarse. I had surgery a little bit before I left, and the physician says, you'll be fine, it's benign, your voice will be just great. And it was all the other way around. And it took 2 years for me to heal, and not completely, from a benign lesion of the false vocal cord. And that made me think. Family, well, many of you knows that we have 2 children, and our daughter lives in Vermont. The girl that came here for at least 10 or 12 meetings with us, with my wife and myself. And so that was a big appeal. Our mothers, Bridget's mothers and my mothers, are still alive, widows, and are hurting and failing, and so that was another reason. And to be close to the rest of our families. I was really looking for something different. And I was curious if I could do it, if I could do that. And then the offer came on my desk, like many offers come on your desk. What, president of a medical group in Vermont. And by the way, a quarter of Vermonters have French-Canadian blood. That's true, just like New Hampshire. They had 900,000 people immigrated in the 1800 and early 1900. And I bet that's why I got the job. I believed in the vision, and I told myself now or never, and I did it. I learned a lot about finances, and probably I should have. Mayo, they taught me a lot about leadership, but not a lot about finances because it was too regulated from the top. So I felt like I should have learned more about finances to take a job like this, but people saw that and helped me through it. Compensation models. Imagine for 23 years at Mayo plus 4 years of training, I worked on a handshake, no contract. I never saw a contract until I ended in Vermont. And I had to learn what that meant. And people, and I mentioned about the community physician, academic physician, but all kinds of other things that I learned about people. Politics, Bernie Sanders, all that stuff, Senator Lee. I mean, I live with those issues every day. Our dean is on faculty in pediatric at the University of Vermont. We don't see him, but he's still on faculty in pediatric. And I learned about myself. And there's about 100 books at any day on leadership. But really, it's by doing it that I learn, about vulnerability, that's a good thing, about integrity, about advocacy, about loving the people you work with. And then I needed to manage my time more effectively because the amount of email, and I admire you, Shanda, the amount of email that I have is staggering and really stressful sometimes. So I learned how to prioritize, delegate. And I learned that, the three things that you don't do is you don't mess with. And I did mess with compensation, mess with your secretary, and mess with the schedule. And the doctors taught me this. And it's tough. Coaching and mentorship. I've been coached since I've been I was coached in Minnesota a little bit, but I benefited a lot from coaching. Vic, I call Vic regularly, and other people. And Vic has been one of my greatest coaches. The first thing he taught me, he says, if you want to be coach, you had to let me do it, something like that. And it was great. And now I mentor people, I mentor medical students, residents, and other faculty outside and inside the organization. And then there's the weather talk in Vermont. It's not always summer. And Vermont is a blue-collar state. That's what we think of the color, of the weather. And other than California, I think that we're a little more crude. We don't have the reservation of Minnesota. There's no German blood. It's all French-Canadian here. The other thing I learned is the 99 to 1 vote in Vermont is a tie. Everybody wants an opinion, and it doesn't matter that the 99 doctors wants this. If Johnny or Mary wants that, you got to get me that. Doing windshield time often involve a ferry to New York. I have to take the ferry, I have my card. Good luck renovating your house when it's nice outside because people go to the lake, they go to the mountain, they do snowmobiling, they do ice fishing. There's no bad season not to work on my house. So I send that picture to Cassidy and Weigel because they're from Canada and they have a losing team. I have the season ticket with Bridget. Bridget is one of the fiercest Montreal Canadian fan. I am embarrassed sometimes. And here she is. She's in the room today, but she's sitting on that ice. She said, we went to the ice, the Montreal Canadian ice last year as a season ticket holder, and I took that picture. And this is the lake from our home. We live in an island about 20 minutes from the university and an hour and a half from Montreal. We cross the border almost every 2 weeks with our driving license. We get to know and it's quite easy. And that's the lake in March last year. And in the summer, when I don't hesitate, when the lake is calm, we learn a lot about the lake. The lake is a living environment. And that's Bridget who make all this not only tolerable, but a wonderful place for me to be with her. But we'll never forget Mayo. By chance, I took that picture, and then we discovered that she had her Mayo hat, and she's a gynecologic cancer doctor, and she had this Minnesota Ovarian Cancer Association. So would I do it again? I sure would do, but I miss my friend at Mayo. Thank you very much.